Could China shut down American weapons if war broke out?
Night vision goggles, communication systems, GPS systems. So anything the military wants to do. There's a system that has rare earth components, and those rare earth components have to come from China.
It's really a matter of the United States deciding that it has to intervene.
What do you think? Let us know down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Don Ma in for Tiffany Meyer. Could China shut down U.S. defenses in times of war? One expert says yes. The reason? Most of America's weapons rely on key components made exclusively in China. We unveiled the devil in the details.
A key vulnerability spanning almost every advanced weapon in the American arsenal. It involves two of the U.S.'s most powerful weapons, the F-35 fighter jet and the Tomahawk missile. They share one thing in common. Without rare earth elements, they can't be produced. And the world's rare earths are almost completely controlled by China.
Night vision goggles, communication systems, GPS systems. So anything the military wants to do. There's a system that has rare earth components, and those rare earth components have to come from China. And if China's not willing to supply them, then rearming and restocking is impossible.
And Beijing seems to be hinting at just that. As tensions between the U.S. and China pile up, the Chinese regime said it would tighten export controls on rare earths. An expert told Foreign Policy that if the U.S. were to get cut off from rare earth supplies, it would deal a major blow to the defense industrial base. Right now, there are no easy alternatives than China. So what are rare earths and why are they so important? Rare earths are metals, specifically a group of 17 elements on the periodic table. They're used in almost all modern technology, from iPhones to Tesla motors to almost every advanced U.S. military weapon. Every Virginia-class attack submarine uses over 9,000 pounds of rare earths. On top of controlling 70% of the global rare earth supply, China also controls the entire supply chain. The country makes over 90% of a type of rare earth magnet, one that guides missiles to their targets and helps tanks navigate the battlefield.
And magnets are used for guidance systems for smart bombs, right? They're used for guidance for missiles, advanced missile systems. They're used for drones in tracking and stabilization. They're used on an F-35 fighter jet. Rare earths are used extensively on advanced systems like nuclear submarines.
The U.S. is trying to play catch-up. Right now, there's only one rare earth mine in the U.S. sitting in California's Mojave Desert, and it has to ship its rare earths to China for processing. Though the company that owns the mine says soon it will be able to refine rare earth elements on its own. Kennedy noted, even though the rare earth market isn't big,
but the importance of the applications of rare earths is like having the world's longest lever, right? So if I have a little fulcrum, but I have a big lever, I can move anything. And, this is what China's done. And, you really have to think about it as a new form of warfare, a warfare where, the casualties are economic casualties. You're not killing people. You're economically strangling your adversary. It's quite humane, right? If you're not up to the game, you lose.
NTD reached out to the Pentagon but did not hear back before airtime.
The Pentagon's China supply chain problem doesn't stop at rare earths. The communist country also supplies the U.S. military with critical energetic materials used in munitions. A growing number of Chinese companies have made it into the Pentagon's supply base. A report says the number was 655 as of 2019. An over 400% increase from a decade ago. And Raytheon, one of the Pentagon's largest defense contractors, said it's impossible to decouple from China. It has several thousand suppliers there. Last year, the Pentagon started using artificial intelligence to track whether the raw materials and parts that contractors use come from China. What can the U.S. do to wean itself off its reliance on China? We sat down with Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow at the International Assessment and Strategy Center, for insight. And now with us here is Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow at the International Assessment and Strategy Center. So Rick, almost every advanced weapon that the U.S. military used relies on rare earths, which China has dominance over. What can we do about the situation?
Don, thanks for having me. China dominates the market and the processing and the mining of rare earth metals and materials. It's really a matter of the United States deciding that it has to intervene, that it has to subsidize a number of companies that can begin to erode China's dominance and to begin to assure a secure supply of these rare earth elements. So it requires an investment in the whole product chain, from extraction to processing, and taking these materials and forming them into products.
Now, if China decided to completely cut off rare earths to the U.S., would there be ensuing ramifications in terms of U.S. retaliation?
I imagine yes. I mean, the United States has been trying to restrict China's access to high-tech computer chip manufacturing technologies and supplies of very high technology computer chips manufactured in the United States and in the West. If China's restriction of access to rare earth elements and their processing is said by China to be in part a reaction to American restrictions on chip making and computer chips for China, which go directly into satellites and various weapon systems on Earth. This dynamic will probably get worse if China increases its restrictions on access to rare earth elements and their processing. The United States will probably impose greater restrictions on China's access to chips and the such. And on it will go. And this will spread to other areas of high technology exchange as the United States and China continue their march towards a new Cold War.
All right. Thank you very much, Rick, at the International Assessment and Strategy Center.
Thank you, Don.
China is getting more rare earth ore from Canada, and it's coming from a mine that was once celebrated as a symbol of independence from China's supply chain. What led to the dramatic shift? Representatives from Canada, the U.S., Australia, and Norway announced the launching of the Nechalacho rare earth mine some 2 years ago. At the time, they vowed to, quote, guarantee a responsibly sourced supply of rare earth elements, raw materials independent of China. The high-grade ore was originally destined for supply chains in North America and Europe, but a new source of investment appears to have influenced the change. Earlier this month, Chinese rare earth miner Shenghe Resources made a deal with Vital Metal, the mine's owner. Shenghe agreed to buy some of the mine's ore and invested $4 million to buy an about 10% share of Vital Metal. The deal set off alarms among Canadian politicians. Under the Canadian House of Commons, the Standing Committee on Industry and Technology passed a motion. It urges Canada's Minister of Industry to start a national security review into the issue. But because Vital Metal is an Australian company, and Australian government already approved the deal, the Canadian side may not have much sway over the deal. Now we turn to Southeast Asia. 18 people are dead in Indonesia after a fire broke out in a Chinese-owned steel plant. At least 4 of the victims were Chinese workers. The blaze ignited Sunday morning inside a nickel smelting furnace owned by a Chinese company. Nickel is one of the most important metals used to produce batteries for electric vehicles. And Indonesia is the world's biggest nickel producer. The nickel smelter is part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Critics describe the program as a tool Beijing uses to expand its influence and get access to resources overseas. Russia is growing its defense ties with China and North Korea. Russia's top military officer saying Thursday that it has set up comprehensive defense cooperation with North Korea, and that would continue its partnership with China and India.
Contrary to the West's attempts to isolate our country in the international arena, the Russian Ministry of Defense continued to increase the pace of interaction with foreign military departments within the framework of military and military technical cooperation.
The U.S. has been concerned that North Korea could provide weapons to Russia to help its war in Ukraine. South Korean lawmakers said Russia helped Pyongyang launch a spy satellite a month ago. China and Russia also held military talks Wednesday, vowing to step up strategic coordination. Next, we would like to take a moment to thank all of our viewers. Many of you wrote in to share your best wishes through emails or comments on our YouTube channel. Jeanette McBride wrote, "Thanks for consistently providing the real news. It helps a lot." And Ted Zender wrote, "Keep up the good work." China in Focus is approaching its 4-year anniversary, reporting news from and about China. Our program wouldn't be possible without your support. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than 2 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform, Epoch TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Here's what to look out for in our second half. Beijing sanctions a U.S. company and 2 U.S. citizens. The move seen as retaliation for sanctions on Chinese companies over forced labor allegations. Chinese leader Xi Jinping vows to bring Taiwan under the communist regime's control. This remark comes during a tribute to Mao Zedong, the man who founded the PRC. Japan approving a record defense bill for 2024. One big goal, speeding up deployments of missiles that can hit China and North Korea. And a report finds that the Chinese regime tried to meddle in the 2022 elections. We welcome a guest who says Beijing will do it even more next year. Hear what else he has to say about China's influence campaigns in the U.S. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Don Ma. See you tomorrow.